yoga really is an integrated science. Is you are enhancing the capacity to hold energy and to move more and more energy through your body. And so that is just as powerful a practice, just as these are. It's just different strokes for different folks. First of all, not everyone is going to feel drawn to it. So if you feel drawn to it, honor that. For many folks who have done readings with, it's almost like a sense of coming home. So one of the biggest misconceptions is that Jyotish is about...
Hello, and thank you so much for joining us today on our Holistic Health podcast about Kundalini Yoga and Jyotish sciences. I'm thrilled to introduce you to our guest. We have Sandeep Gandhi, founder of Tandav LLC, an advanced Kriya Yoga school, and a founding partner at Drishti LLC, which is a conscious investing enterprise. Sandeep is not your average yoga teacher, but the master level Kundalini practitioner who learned directly from the Himalayan masters and gurus in Rishikesh, India. But it gets even more interesting as Sandeep is also a Jyotishi or a Vedic astrologer. After 20 years in the world of institutional investing and business consulting, Sandeep turned his life 180 degrees to apprentice directly with the Himalayan gurus, and he's now back with a bang. Welcome, Sandeep.
Thank you for having me.
It is a delight to have you here. So what was the pivotal moment, or was it a series of experiences that triggered the spiritual shift?
It's a bit of both. I think it starts with, at least in my case, it starts with this recognition that the way I was doing life wasn't quite cutting it for me, and not knowing another way and feeling very lost around how to navigate that. So it started with coming to this place of surrender and acceptance that, okay, I don't know how to do this in a way that actually works for me. And then, as you set out on the path, then there were some pivotal moments which kind of really propelled me forward.
So then you just took a break, went to India, did your practices, and then came back.
Yeah, it was, it became clearer and clearer along the way. And certainly there was a moment where it was like absolutely clear that I need to go deep into yoga. And then it was a matter of, okay, you asked for how to proceed.
Yes.
And here is a pathway. What are you going to do with it? Are you actually going to follow it? And then that was a moment of choice, if you will.
Okay.
And so then I chose to, move forward with that.
Very nice. Okay. So how is Kundalini Yoga different from the Hatha Yoga that we are all familiar with?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think particularly in the West, Kundalini has gained a lot of popularity, and certainly it's known in India for way longer, of course. And there's a Kundalini Yoga works directly with our energy. So the path of Kundalini Yoga is really looking to raise your energy along what is called your Sushumna Nadi, or your central channel. And for those of you who are familiar, it's essentially, going through the chakras. So the idea is to move the energy from the Muladhara all the way to your Sahasrara, which is your crown chakra. So Kundalini practices are working to move the energy very deliberately.
Okay.
Along the spine and upward along the Sushumna.
Okay.
Hatha, on the other hand, is looking to raise your consciousness as well. So yoga is a lot about raising your consciousness, but Hatha works at the what is known as the Annamaya Kosha, or your physical body.
Okay.
While practices like Kundalini and Kriya are working with your Pranamaya Kosha, which is essentially your subtle body, if you will.
All right, and this is for our viewers, so I'll reiterate again. So Hatha Yoga working at the level of the Annamaya Kosha, or the food body as we call it, and Kundalini Yoga, or the Kriyas, working more at the level of the pranic body, or the subtle body. So Kundalini Yoga is often seen as an intense and transformative, sometimes a risky practice. So what precautions or guidance can you advise our viewers or the Kundalini seekers?
Yeah, this is a very important question that needs addressing, and there's plenty of teachers out there that will kind of caution you against going into it without knowing what you're going in with. But the basic thing is you are enhancing the capacity to hold energy and to move more and more energy through your body. Now, if you think of a light bulb, right? If you plug a 60-watt light bulb into a socket that can take a lot more power moving through, it's not going to be able to hold it. So you need a bigger bulb for it. A bulb that can take higher wattage. So it's the same thing with our bodies. We need to prepare our body in order to be able to move that level of energy. And that's where the practices like Hatha are really integral and pivotal to the practice. So without a solid Hatha practice, it's hard for the body to have the strength in order to actually be able to hold the energy that's going to move through when you start working with Kriya and Kundalini. So a combination of the two is actually really, really important. And that's something that my teacher really impresses upon us, that instead of looking at these different ways of practicing yoga as reductionist kind of approaches, yoga really is an integrated science. So don't look at it as Hatha versus Kriya versus Kundalini. All of these are yogic practices, and they are all available to you, and be intelligent about how you use them.
So would I be right in assuming that Hatha yoga is more like leveling, preparing the soil? And once the soil is prepared, once the body is strong enough, then the next progression would be Kriya yoga or Kundalini yoga.
Well, that's one way to look at it, but that implies that Hatha yoga is somehow not a path in itself, right? Which is not true. Hatha yoga is a full system in itself, and it is kind of just as profound as any of the other paths. What I'm trying to say is that Hatha yoga can give you a solid foundation to then launch off into a Kriya or Kundalini practice, should that be something that you connect with, right? Not everyone is going to connect with it, right? So there's enough of yogis who've spent their lifetime just with Hatha practices, or even just mastering one asana. And so that is just as powerful a practice, just as these are. It's just different strokes for different folks.
And this is something personally for me, because I've been doing a Kriya practice, which is a little bit more subtle. Is there some way for me or one of the beginner Kriya practitioners to be able to tell if their body is ready for more advanced Kriyas or for something like Kundalini Kriya?
First of all, not everyone is going to feel drawn to it. So if you feel drawn to it, honor that, and then kind of connect with yourself within and to see that, okay, do I feel ready to go try this? And then find someone who is a grounded teacher who can actually kind of walk you through it. And at some point, if it becomes too much, you will know, because the energy will move through your body in a way that feels unnatural. And that's when, that's feedback for your teacher as well, to maybe kind of take it a notch down and to kind of dance with it a little bit.
And I think I have felt that personally, because on occasions I have had some lower back pains where I could feel some energetic shifts, and then I had to back off a little bit, then get back in again. Probably.
Beautiful. And that's the feedback. That's the feedback loop that, even with teachers who've been kind of doing this for decades, they need to get feedback from your body in terms of where you are at. Right? So this is the process.
Very good. Well, thank you. Now, moving on, this is a very interesting question. How did you come across the discipline of Jyotish Shastra or Vedic astrology?
Yeah, that's that was a bit of a curveball for me, to be honest, because coming from an analytical background, Jyotish wasn't something that I frankly didn't really know how to really think about it, because to the logical mind it seems like something that you wouldn't necessarily give much weight to. But what shifted for me was a couple of years ago. I had a reading who was with one of my yoga teachers, and he mentioned something about my dasha shifting.
Okay.
And the day that shift happened
Okay.
was exactly the day when I'd had a profound meditation experience.
Okay.
And that was the day when I decided that, okay, I'm going to go towards yoga and completely, turn my life around in a way. And but I only had this reading a year and a half after that. So looking at it backwards, I was like, okay, there's something to the science, because the level of precision just cannot be denied. And that's what got me interested in it. And then in talking to my teacher, who I've been training in the Kriya and Kundalini path, and what I understood was Jyotish is actually a very integral part of the yogic practice.
Okay.
And all the rishis and yogis have used Jyotish as a part of their personal journey.
I see.
Because it gives you a beautiful lens into who you are as a person.
Yes.
And what the energies are influencing you, and we'll go into that more.
Yes.
But that's just kind of been my pathway into it.
Okay. So what would you say is one of the biggest misconceptions?
Yeah, I think growing up in India in particular, practically everyone's heard of Jyotish, right?
Yes.
Whether you've had an experience of having a reading or not, you've definitely heard of it. And in the West, it's not so much. People know about Western astrology, and maybe there are a few, who are into the yoga space and stuff, who know about Vedic astrology. So one of the biggest misconceptions is that Jyotish is about making predictions.
Okay.
That it's about, if I come to you, you're gonna tell me what's gonna happen, with this exam that I have coming up. You're gonna tell me when I'm gonna meet the love of my life. Those kind of things, right?
Okay.
Can Jyotish do all that? To some extent, but at the same time, there's so much more to it.
Yes.
That is so much more powerful than just making, predictions about certain things that may or may not actually unfold in the future.
Yes.
So one of the key things that I use as a guiding star is what Krishna has shared in the Gita at all times. Like, you are entitled to the efforts of your action, but not to the outcome.
Okay.
There's like a million parameters at play that go into determining the outcome of any action that you take. The predictive ability of any one person being able to say, okay, this is going to be our outcome.
Yeah.
And yes, there are plenty of Jyotishs who do that well. Just know that you're playing, the odds are stacked against you.
Okay.
Right? But where Jyotish is extremely powerful is Jyotish gives us a clue into the karmic blueprint that was imprinted on you at the moment you took your first breath. And now, why is this important?
Yes.
This is important because it gives us very clear clues into what are the strengths you were born with, what are the challenges that you're here to overcome and to transcend. And so that already gives you a flavor of, okay, this is kind of, I'm here to fulfill this sort of role or play this kind of role in this lifetime. And these are the lessons I'm here to learn.
Okay.
So it already, for many folks who I've done readings with, it's almost like a sense of coming home. It's a sense of relief that, that explains so much.
Yes.
Okay. And then there's also this sense of purpose that comes with it. That, okay, this is the reason I'm feeling drawn to this is because it's a part of how I was made.
Yes. Okay.
And then the other piece, which is really very unique to Jyotish and not something that exists in Western astrology or other systems, is the dasha system, which is essentially the seasons. And so Jyotish also gives you a lens into what is your specific season of life in this moment, right? And that will be very specific to you, and it will be different for me, different for another person, right? And so based on that, then we can kind of guide you as to, depending on what you are looking to do in the physical world, is this a season for you to harvest rice, or is it a season for you to plant mangoes? That's an example of it, but in very simplistic terms.
That is beautifully put, and that's exactly how I felt after I did my Jyotish reading with Sandeep. And it was almost like he said, like a feeling of homecoming, and a lot of things which were questionable, they suddenly sort of made a lot more sense. And it is just amazing just knowing what integral strengths and weaknesses that you were born with and how to best use them for your particular dasha or the season that you're going through. So coming back to this question about looking at the blueprint and deciding which kriya practices or yoga practices would be most suitable, can you elaborate a little bit more on that? That's so interesting.
Yeah, so that's kind of how I work with a lot of my one-on-one students and seekers, and because the Jyotish reading gives me so much information about this person that then, you know, when we go into, and these are students who are really sincere seekers who actually want to go deeper into their practice, so having read their chart, I'm now able to not only see, okay, what are their strengths, you know, and what is their blueprint, what are the things that will work for them in general, right? And then particularly the dasha they're in, what would be most supportive for them, you know, in terms of being able to navigate the energies that they are being influenced by in this particular moment. And so that really helps me tailor a sequence of kriyas and or practices and stitch them together in a way that would be most supportive to them, particularly in this moment.
So personalize kriya practices based on the blueprint and the season that the person is in. That's just absolutely amazing. Like I've been doing yoga for over a decade now, Hatha yoga practices, now kriya yoga practices, but I could have never imagined that Jyotish sciences could be such a powerful tool where it can be used to individualize a person's spiritual practice. So that is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, no, it is really profound, and I'm really grateful to be able to share this as well, and for all the students who kind of trust me with this, because just seeing how much influence it has and what an impact it has is just really just so much gratitude to all the teachers and masters who've shared all this. And an analogy of this is really just kind of connecting it to medicine, for instance, right? It's like picking stuff off the counter versus having a prescription. So this is like your prescription versus, say, taking stuff off the counter. That's the difference.
And I'm doing an Ayurveda course right now. And one of the things which has been emphasized in some of the classes is that there's a huge impact of the moon cycles on the quality of the herbs. And in fact, some of the herbs, they are only harvested during full moon, and some of them are only formulated and administered during a full moon. So there's definitely a connection between Jyotish and health as well. So I'll have you elaborate a little bit more about your experience with this.
Sure. This is not my area of expertise, yet there are practitioners out there for generations in India who've been using Jyotish to essentially determine what's, like you said, you know, not only to when to harvest the herbs or what to grow and stuff, but even to personalize what they are prescribing to you as a person. Again, you know, doing what I'm doing with the kriya practices and stuff, but they're doing that in the Ayurvedic space. So that, you know, reading your chart gives them a clue into what mantras to use to energize the medicine that they're going to give you, which will be different for different people, and also they use different herbs within that medicine based on what they see in your chart. So it's a whole very integrated, very elaborate and very sophisticated science, and it's so powerful, and it's been, you know, it's been refined over thousands of years, and this is just such a beautiful part of our human heritage that we have, you know.
And that kind of brings me to a very fun saying, and this actually came from Hippocrates, not from Indian rishis. And this is what Hippocrates said, is that a doctor who does not know astrology is not a real doctor.
I've come across this, yes. I've come across this before.
This is very interesting. So now moving on, you founded Drishti, a conscious investing enterprise. So what is conscious investing and how does it differ from the traditional approach?
Thank you for asking. Drishti has really been something that came out of my yoga practice.
Mm-hmm.
Because I had moved on from my corporate work. Investing has been something that's been really close to my heart.
Okay.
And as a vehicle and a powerful tool
Mm-hmm.
to unlock the freedom that
Mm-hmm.
is in all of us.
Uh-huh.
That's how I see investing.
Mm-hmm.
And drishti is just, I literally came out of me of a yoga practice where the words conscious investing just dropped in for me.
Okay.
And so the past 3 years has been, an attempt and work in trying to give shape and form to it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think of drishti as a conscious investing practice. And the reason I say practice is very, very deliberate.
Okay.
Because I see it as something that it will continue to refine over time, just like your yoga practice.
Mm-hmm.
You're never really done. There's no end goal that you're working towards.
Okay.
It's you show up because you are here to learn the craft. And so conscious investing to me is the same. So what is conscious investing?
Mm-hmm.
At the crux of it, conscious investing is being intentional, bringing intentionality into your investing practice,
Okay.
into your investing decisions,
Yes.
and financial decisions in
Mhm.
general.
Mm-hmm.
The way that looks like, and in the way we kind of are bringing it or sharing it in its current form, is to find a balance, to finding a balance between profits and purpose. So
Okay.
investing in businesses that are very high quality from a business perspective, are very profitable, but at the same time they are not chasing profits just for the sake of chasing profits,
Mhm.
right? They also are mission led. Like they are working towards something bigger beyond the profits, and the profits is the fuel that
Yes.
keeps that machinery running, and over the longer haul. And the other way we kind of navigating this, and this is going to be the first offering, is to find a balance between investments like the ones I described, which are necessarily long-term in nature,
Yes.
and you can get a fair bit of growth in that, but you kind of have to commit to it for the long term.
Mm-hmm.
And so coming back to this idea of using or seeing investing as a way to unlock freedom, the other product that we are kind of now just about to launch with, and that is about unlocking freedom today. So that's geared towards generating cash flow in the near term.
Okay.
So like people like yourselves or people like me,
Yes.
who want to move towards a more conscious way of
Yes.
living,
Mhm.
who want to create something different from what they've been doing before, right? But we all have bills to pay,
Yes.
right? So the whole idea behind this
Uh-huh.
is that, okay, to the extent that we can take some of that burden
Mhm.
away from you, so that voice of doubt that might sometimes come up is quietened just a little bit, so that you stay on your path. That's the idea behind that.
That is amazing. That's that's wonderful. Okay.
Thank you.
So for those of us who are looking to bring more mindfulness, more conscious behaviors in our day-to-day living, are there any key points that you would like us, or tips that you could offer?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is making space for it and taking action. There's many of us, I think the benefits of mindfulness, meditation, and self-care are no longer lost on us, thankfully. There's enough out there in the media. Even those of us addicted to scrolling,
Yes.
and all of us are to some extent. There's plenty of messages we see there on why these are good for us. So then it's a question of what are you going to do with it? And this is where taking baby steps, but very, very intentional baby steps, is very integral to it.
Okay.
So what I have seen help, and this is kind of how I've seen work for the students that I work with as well, is setting yourself up for success. What does that look like? Starting small. So again, that's why I very intentionally say baby steps as opposed to just take a step, right? Having a community to the extent you can find even like say one other person who wants to set out on a similar path, and you guys can hold each other accountable. It's incredible the power that comes with that. So those are the two things. And then what do you do with that time, right? So that's another question. Start with just sitting. Start with just sitting, making 5 minutes in your day and just sitting. And that can be very uncomfortable for many of us. So perhaps if that is your experience, as you begin to experiment with this, start with journaling. So pick up a notebook, and the task you're committing to is at a particular time every morning.
Okay.
You're going to open a notebook and you're just going to write hi, and then see what else wants to flow from there.
Okay.
And that's it.
Oh, that's...
And see how beautifully things unfold.
Yes, that's some really great advice. Thank you, Sandeep. So where can listeners learn more about your Kundalini workshops and the Jyotish consultations, and how can they connect with you for deeper experience?
Thank you. So I usually share about these on Instagram. My handle is sandeep.tandav.yoga.
Okay.
And you can also reach me at sandeep@tandav.yoga. That's the email. That would be the best way to reach me. And for anyone who's interested, I also have a WhatsApp group that I usually broadcast offerings on.
Okay.
So if you can drop me a message on Instagram or email, then I can add you to the group as well.
So Instagram, email, and a WhatsApp group. So the links to the Instagram handle and Sandeep's email are shared here in the links. And again, it was such a pleasure having you here, learning from you, and hearing to some of the great things. And it is just amazing that things are now changing and everybody knows the importance of applying mindfulness and having their day-to-day activities which are more conscious. With this, we'll end our podcast for today. Is Namaskaram.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the work you're doing.
Thank you.
Because this creates ripples beyond what we can imagine. So thank you very much again.
Namaskaram.
Thank you for having me. Namaskaram.